Hello children, today I'm going to tell you a story about the cherry tree. The cherry tree was written by Ruskin Bond. So now children, what is a cherry? Yes, a cherry is a small, soft, round stone fruit that is typically bright or dark red in color. So children, this story revolves around a boy named Rakesh who is 6 years old, and his grandfather, who was a retired forest officer who had his own cottage on the outskirts of Mussoorie. Now children, outskirts means boundary. Yes, boundary of Mussoorie. So this little boy, while he was returning home from his school, he bought some cherries and he immediately started eating it on the way home. While he reached his home, he was only left with 3 cherries, and as soon as he reached home, he offered to his grandfather. So, grandfather has taken one out of those 3 cherries. So, children, how many are left with the little boy now? Only 2 cherries. So, this boy quickly ate those cherries, and when it was the last seed of the last cherry, he was eating it very slowly. Like children, he kept the last seed on his tongue for some times, rolling it round and round on his tongue. He then placed the seed on the palm of his hand and then started staring on the seed. While he was staring at it, he asked his grandfather, "Are cherry seeds lucky?" Then the grandfather replied, "Of course, nothing is lucky if you put it away. If you want luck, you must put it into some use." So this little boy asked his grandfather, "Grandfather, what should I do with this cherry seed now?" So his grandfather advised him to plant it. Rakesh then immediately went to the garden and started digging the ground, and while he was digging the ground, his grandfather asked him to plant it in a shady corner so that it won't be disturbed. Rakesh went to a corner of the garden where the earth was soft. He did not have to dig. He pressed the seed into the soil with his thumb and it went right in. Then he went to have his lunch and ran off to play cricket with his friends and forgot all about the cherry seed. Meanwhile, the seed continues to grow, winter passes and spring arrives. One day, Rakesh was observing the bird when he suddenly notices the plant which has grown into a twig. Now children, twig means a small branch or stem of a tree or a shrub. He then realizes that it was a cherry tree which was well rooted. Rakesh then shows his grandfather the cherry twig. Grandfather advises Rakesh to take care of the plant now and water it Rakesh also circles the plant with some pebbles for protection. Now, Rakesh was very much interested. Every morning he used to observe the plant's growth but was little disappointed with its slow rate of growing. Later, what happened, children? Rainy season started, and in rainy season, trees usually starts growing very quickly. So even the cherry tree grew very quickly. Now the cherry tree is about 2 feet high. Suddenly one day, a goat entered the garden and ate all the leaves. Only the main stem and two thin branches were left. And looking at all these, Rakesh became very sad. And seeing him sad, his grandfather said, "Never mind, Rakesh, it will grow again." And so, children, this is the end of part 1 of the story, The Cherry Tree. Part 2. Again, in the next monsoon, he discovers the tree and then jumps up with excitement upon finding it as tall as him. After that, both grandfather and he begin taking care of the tree. They save the tree from a goat that eats up the stem leaves, and then from a grass cutter woman who almost cut it into 2 pieces. Once Rakesh witnesses an insect on the tree, but he doesn't try and sweat it away as he considered it the tree's first friend. Next, he sees a hairy caterpillar feeding on the leaves of the tree. Rakesh holds it and places it on some dry leaves to protect the cherry leaves. When winter arrives, the plant bulges under the weight of the falling snow. It snows so much that the road from the valley gets covered with snow for several days. Then, one fine day, his grandfather sees some pink flowers on the cherry tree. For Rakesh, it is nothing short of a miracle. The next spring, there are some more flowers. Birds and bees start drinking its nectar, and the tree grows taller than him. Soon Rakesh turns 10 and the cherry tree turns 5. Rakesh starts enjoying books along with grandfather's stories. Finally, the next summer brings the first fruits, but when Rakesh eats them, they were sour instead of sweet. Grandfather consoles Rakesh and tells him that the cherries would develop into tastier fruit the following year. One evening, Rakesh asks his grandfather about the thing that made the tree so special. His grandfather replied that the efforts they put in to nurture the plant made it special. Rakesh admires the bark and leaves of his cherry tree, his own creation. Rakesh was so mesmerized by it that he considers it to be a manifestation of God. He imagines that it was what God must feel about his creations.